What's happening, hardscapers? This is episode 34 of the How to Hardscape podcast, where we talk to you about how you can start and grow your hardscaping business. In today's episode, we're joined by Greg Borger. He is the president and founder of Stone Deck Innovations in Canada. And he's here to talk with us about a few different products over a few different episodes that will allow you to install unique decks alongside your hardscaping work. And we start this episode today with SilcaGrates. Head on over to stonedeck.ca to learn more about all the different products that we'll be talking about during this week and how you can expand the services and solutions that you offer your clients. And if you're a contractor in Canada, be sure to join their contractor referral network. We'll be talking about all this and more and throughout these episodes this week. So without further ado, here's our interview with Greg Borger. Today we are joined by Greg Borger. He is the president and founder of Stone Deck Innovations, who sourced some pretty interesting products, most of which we're going to talk about in a series of interviews with him. Greg, thank you so much for joining me here.
Thanks, Mike. Awesome to be here, and I'm looking forward to being able to reach out and inform your listener base on some of our innovative products.
Greg, let's start with learning more about yourself. Can you give our audience a little bit of a background about your introduction and evolution in the industry and where Stone Deck Innovations started with all this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for many years, I was your traditional hardscape contractor where, my business was going out there and installing the hardscape for customers. The original company was Stone Deck Landscapes, and we were working in the greater Ottawa area and having success with the business. And then what ended up happening, and it's an interesting story, is we a number of years ago, and by we I mean my wife and I, built a new house in South rural Ottawa. And originally, I had all these aspirations to put my skill set to work on my new home and create this beautiful hardscape patio and deck in my backyard. But for some unforeseen circumstances, my septic tank and bed were installed at the back of the house, basically putting an end to all these expectations of this beautiful stone deck. So as a result, I ended up having to build a multi-tier wood deck. And don't get me wrong, wood is a beautiful and elegant material and allows you to create some spectacular outdoor living spaces. But as anyone knows, living in our Canadian northern climate or in the northern U.S., it doesn't take long for the elements to turn any of your hard work with wood into something that's a little bit less desirable. Needless to say, the deck went in and lasted for about 2 years until it came a little bit unsightly. And I ended up going through the whole process, as most owners of wood decks do, stripping it, sanding it, cleaning it, and then staining it and, getting it looking back to the way it used to. But unfortunately, about to the day, 2 years later, it ended up looking exactly the way it did. So I started looking at some alternatives for my deck. At the time, I did my research with respect to the various composite decking products. Personally, I didn't like some of the things that I was seeing or learning. It wasn't a product that was going to really fit my needs. But I was fortunate enough to find a company in the United States called SilcaSystem. They're now known as Stone Decks, spelt a little differently. And they had a product called SilcaGrate. And what this product was made from recycled plastics. First of all, fantastic for the environment, that you could utilize the existing wood framing of a standard deck and then allow it to be transformed into a stone deck. So I reached out to the company directly, bought the grates, for personal use, and was one of the first person to bring them into the Canadian market, and was able to transform my 2,000 square foot multi-tier wood deck into a stone deck with relative speed and ease, and was really sort of taken back by the product. And then when we had, friends and relatives coming over, everybody was under the impression that I had demolished the entire wood structure and created that hardscape look. So what ended up happening is kind of a light bulb went off at that point, and I reached out to the company and engaged them in regards to being able to distribute and sell their product here in Canada, and over time became the Canadian distributor for Stone Deck's SilcaGrates, and over the years managed to add various other sort of like-minded similar products, such as paver deck and tile deck and various pedestal systems in our soil grid as well.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at all the different products that Stone Deck Innovations is bringing in and they're offering in the marketplace, I mean, it's a lot of innovative products, and I mean that's part of your name. What is it about these products that you look at and you decide that this is going to be a part of Stone Deck Innovations?
Well, I mean, what we want to look at is finding sort of innovative products that allow, whether it's a homeowner or a contractor, create, those beautiful maintenance-free backyard living spaces quickly, as easily as possible, as cost-effective as possible, but more importantly, having something that is going to last. I mean, as a Canadian and living in Ottawa, where we have some of the craziest temperature swings in the country. I mean, in Ottawa, and anyone who has been in this area, it's not uncommon to see plus 45 degrees Celsius in the summer and minus 45 degrees in the winter. I mean, those kind of temperatures and the freeze-thaw cycles plays havoc on traditional interlock, especially when an interlock traditional build with any type of elevation is presented, right? So our products don't rely sort of on any of the traditional installation techniques, but are designed to be installed in a manner that is going to last and survive the elements and give you a lot more flexibility with respect to using the product. And I mean, I think within the whole industry, you're seeing tons of innovative products coming out, with that whole sort of motto or mantra, work smarter, not harder, right? So our contractor can take advantage of being able to, bid on a job, win that job, go in and do that job quicker and not worry with respect to having to go back for any type of warranty or callback issues.
Yeah, and I think that's so important for contractors to always be learning about these new products that are coming on the market or already on the market, to be able to go in and offer your customer the best solution and, that meets their budget and meets everything that they want. And, my first introduction to the products that you guys offer was paver deck, and I used to work for a supplier, and we started, talking about paver deck more there, and it was a really interesting product that just wasn't being adapted by too many contractors because it was new. But then the next thing that I heard about from you guys was the SilcaGrate system. It was featured on a video of Stanley Genetics of Dirt Monkey there. And we were lucky to have him on the show recently. And, he talks about being able to offer these new solutions to your customer to, rise above your competition because you have the knowledge, you have the know-how to offer your customers the best solution. Which brings me to this SilcaGrate system. Can you talk to our audience a little bit? I know it's more of a visual thing, and we'll link back to your website where you can learn more about it and some videos on it when we get to releasing this podcast episode. But can you speak to our audience about this SilcaGrate system and what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I mentioned, this was the first sort of innovative product that we brought into Canada with our company, and then the whole sort of concept of our product line took off. Paul LaFrance of Decked Out has used this product on many of his episodes as well. So when you have some big names like that using and displaying the product, I think it speaks volumes. And exactly like you said, I mean, for your listeners who may be listening and are acquiring a visual, I mean, if they jump to stonedeck.ca and go under our Silca system page, there's lots of photos that explains the product as well as our galleries section. So basically, Silca system is a sturdy all-weather subfloor that allows you to put any type of stone, paver, brick, porcelain, even artificial turf on it. The grates themselves are engineered, have a very strong tensile strength to them where they can handle any stone out on the market, right? I mean, we've had a customer that a number of years ago wanted to utilize an 80 mil stone that he had throughout his property, on his driveway, on his walkways, and he wanted them on his elevated deck, and we were able to do that. Basically, the applications for the SilcaGrates, for any type of elevated deck, rooftops, using them on balconies, raised walkways, gazebos, docks, landscape features. And in essence, you're able to place any of the stones that are available out on the market at any of the manufacturers, or even uneven flagstone. as opposed to having to use wood or composite decking. And this includes the ability to, build stairs with them. And the beauty of utilizing this product is, you're not relying on excavation and backfill. So, from a contractor's perspective, it allows you to complete jobs, for example, in areas with limited access, the speed of the installation, because you're not necessarily excavating or bringing in any of the granular products to create that base. I mentioned my property with the septic tanks and systems. Well, it allows you to work around certain structures like that. Or if you wanted to incorporate an old tree in your hardscape visions where you're worried about damaging the root systems. If you have water lines or other utilities, this system really allows it to work effectively, because what you're doing is you're basically creating a wood frame that is going to support the Silca systems, which in turn is going to support the stone. So in essence, you're building a wood deck, and the techniques for building a wood deck are you can either attach to a home or a structure using a ledger board, and then putting your beam supported by a number of mechanical or concrete footings, placed accordingly. And obviously the design of that deck will determine, the number required and whatnot.
So we talked a little bit there about at the end, how the system works. Can we get into the installation of this? Where do we start, especially for contractors that say haven't got into deck building so much? When you're getting into a deck, and it's totally different, I guess, from region to region in terms of getting permits and everything like that. So we can skip over things like that should be researched by the contractor, but in terms of getting this SilcaGrate system installed, and starting that deck project, where do we begin?
So, the big thing is kind of twofold, right? From, a homeowner and a lot of the success these products are having, or any of the new innovative products are having, they're driven by the homeowner. Today's homeowner is very educated in terms of going on the internet, doing their research. Contractors will find when they go to a homeowner's house to present a bid or to do a quote, a homeowner will have multiple pictures from the various design sites. They'll know the type of products they're interested in and they want to use. So the majority of the homeowners that, are driving our business are finding us online. They're doing their research, or, they're going to our website, stonedeck.ca, and checking out the gallery section, looking at the various how to work with the product, and driving the contractor to want to use this. So the first thing for a contractor to look at is there an existing wood structure, or is this going to be a new build? If there's an existing wood structure in place, the one advantage may be that they don't have to demolish that entire structure and they can reuse it. Now, obviously, you want to take a look at that structure and see if the existing wood is salvageable. Again, on our website, stonedeck.ca, under the Silca system page, we have various engineering and load tables for across the country that includes retrofitting a deck. So once a contractor looks at a project, depending on their skill level and their comfort, can certainly look at reinforcing that deck, bringing in an engineer to do a quick report on that structure, taking advantage of the various design and load tables we have to decide how he needs to reinforce or to build a new deck, from the ground up. Now, the determining factor on the framing is going to be the thickness of the stone. So from a homeowner's perspective, they're going to have visions of a certain stone. The advantage of any of our products like Silca system is you can get away with using a cladding stone. So unlike, stones that are used for pathways or driveways where there's a certain level of compaction required that can crack cladding stones, when the stone is laid on the SilcaGrate, there's no compaction required. You're laying it on a flat, level surface. So you can use a thinner stone that you would use in cladding applications. So like a Teco Block Blue 45 stone, or a 50 millimeter Permacon stone. From that perspective, it's going to be some cost savings to the homeowner, to the contractor. Lighter stone, a little bit easier to work with. So once the stone thickness is determined, then, referring to the load tables, the design can be looked at in regards to how that deck needs to be built or structured. So once the framing is structured, put into place, the SilcaGrates, which are 16 by 18 inches, 2 square feet per grate, are screwed on top of the framing using, a standard 3.5 inch coated deck screw. And now you have a flat surface. Depending on the style of the deck, is the homeowner wanting that deck, if it's a deck 2-3 feet off the ground, platted the sides with stone or left open. Cladding, the possibilities are endless. Typically, what contractors would do is basically build a wall structure around the base of the deck and use a 1/2-inch cement board to clad the outside, which allows you to secure and finish the sides of the deck, right? You want to sort of determine what you're putting on the sides, because obviously when you're laying any type of capstones, that's going to determine how much overhang that capstone is required, especially if that stone that you're using has a drip edge underneath. Now, the cladding options are endless. Like I mentioned, you can leave the deck open and use planting bedding to sort of hide the opening. You can use some type of vertical cladding, whether it's, wood in certain cases if you're trying to match a wood siding, or a composite decking if they're trying to match, again, a sort of a siding look, or the various cement boards. You can use the 1/2-inch cement board and parge it to match the rest of the house, do a stucco parging if you're looking for particular colors. And then you can, at that point, veneer any stone out on the market that's available to you. So really the sky is the limit. So once you've established the walls, at that point, you would then put your capping stone in. Typically what happens is the capping stone is dry laid in place and then adhered to basically the edges of the walls that you built, as well as the SilcaGrate. And on top of the SilcaGrate, you're putting down a geotextile, and the purpose of that geotextile is to hold in the polymeric sand. So once the capstones are secured and adhered in place, you dry lay the rest of your stones on top of the deck, and then sweep in your polymeric sand, and then you're basically done at that point, right? I mean, if it's an elevated deck and there's railings to be installed, just in terms of typical deck building, you would use the appropriate blocking underneath the deck to allow the railing post to be secured to.
Gotcha. So I'm following all that, and you talked about the geotextile fabric. Now, on top of the geotextile, are you able to screed some sand or whatever if you're working with, let's say, 2 different thicknesses of pavers to lay on top of it?
That is a really big question that we'll often get, right? And it seems like a homeowner or a contractor will always find an awesome stone for the deck, but then the capstone they want to use there it's a different thickness. So the beauty of the SilcaGrates, what they allow you to do, and it's a bit of a complicated to explain. It's not complicated to work with. And again, we have it all laid out under stonedeck.ca Silca system page. You're actually going to see under resources a section that deals with working with a different capstone. But in essence, what you can do is you can sister framing timbers or 2x4s on the inside of your framing joists, and then cut the SilcaGrates down to fit in between the joists, which allows you to adjust the height of those capstones. So if you're dealing with, you're going to be using a capstone that you found that's 75 millimeters thick, but you're using, a 45 millimeter stone, you have 1.5 inches height of the SilcaGrates that you can lower to allow the capstones and the rest of the stones to match up. And it works really well. We've done it personally on a number of jobs when we used to install, and, the contractors that have that question, they jump on our Silca page, they look at that resource, and it's really well explained how that's to be done.
That makes absolute sense. And then when you're getting into, say, a manufacturer that doesn't have the greatest of tolerances in terms of the height of the pavers, there's some manufacturers on the market that are really good with those tolerances, and it's almost unnoticeable. Are we able to, say, add a little bit of sand on top of that geotextile fabric in order to, say, lift a corner here and there to get all those pavers looking nice and even?
Yeah, so it really, like you said, it really depends on the tolerances of the stone that you're using, right? I mean, if you're talking a couple of millimeters different in each corner, typically what we find is, when we sweep in the polymeric sand within the joints, we'll put a piece of plywood on top of the center deck. We'll take like the smallest compactor we have, and then we just put it on a low vibrate. And what happens is it causes all that sand to migrate down in between the joints and fill any of those cavities and voids, leveling everything out. Now, if you're talking about something that's very uneven, I mean, we have customers that have, natural flagstone that they want to use, and that too can be done. In that type of instance, what we recommend is crisscrossing the geotextile. So basically you're doubling up the fabric. Depending on how uneven the flagstone or the natural stone you're using, what we'll use washed, basically concrete sand, and we'll use a 1/2-inch notched grout trowel to basically create the bed to support the unevenness of the stone. And then you're basically laying the stone down on top of the sand, and the sand creates that support network. And again, you're sweeping in the proper polymeric sand. There's lots of polymeric sands now on the market that have been specifically designed to work with natural stone and allow for greater sand joints. And that works very effectively. Now, things to keep in mind is if you're going to be using a natural flagstone, is to sort of try to determine, the foot-pound weight of the stone, take into consideration how much sand you're going to be using, and that's all something that you want to factor in, and you'd be able to use the load tables that we provide on our stone deck page for every province to calculate the design required.
Now, when it comes to the SilcaGrate system, what is it about the system that allows, that wood underneath it to not decompose or rot over time? Like, why go with this method as opposed to, say, what we're going to talk about in a future episode here with the paver deck? There's
always been this sort of misconception, I think, that, your wood framing over time is going to rot and fall apart. And you can get into this argument and debate with people about this, but what I say is if something is constructed properly, any wood has the ability to dry out and not be submerged and soaked in water. You're going to find that wood is going to last a long time. I mean, the problem with a lot of the wood decks and frame decking is, first of all, the sun being exposed to the top, and then the wood being wet and never having the ability to dry out. So if you normally would look at an existing wood deck and you remove the decking boards, you'll see a lot of the rot and the problems are starting between the connection of the decking boards and the framing joist, where that water gets underneath there, is trapped and never has the ability to dry out. The design of the SilcaGrates, it's a honeycomb pattern where there's a very thin piece of plastic that is in fact touching the wood framing. So as it rains, it gets wet. As the wood gets wet in the transition of seasons from winter to summer with humidity buildup, whatnot, that wood always has the opportunity to dry out. I can speak personally that my deck in Ottawa is 10 years old. With the Silca system on it. It's 14 years old as constructed originally. And I have an opportunity to take a look underneath my deck every 2 years when I need to pump out my septic tanks. And I'm not seeing any degradation or rot of the wood. And I mean, for example, like one of the accessories we sell is joist guard tape, which is, again, just an added insurance to put on top of the joist to further protect it for those customers that absolutely need that peace of mind. But the ability of the wood to dry out is what really protects the wood from rotting.
When it comes to installing these and, the contractors that you guys have in your referral list, do you know what kind of warranty that they're providing on a system like this, to give our audience an idea of what kind of warranty they can back with their workmanship, but also the product behind it?
Well, the SilcaGrates themselves, the grates have a 20-year warranty for any type of residential application and a 10-year commercial application. They've been tested to the highest standards, in the U.S. where it's manufactured, and it meets California building codes, which are some of the strictest building codes in North America. With respect to the warranty of the product itself, I mean, it's a little hard to speak to, an individual contractor's warranty, but the thing about these products from a contractor's perspective is, a contractor is able to offer a better warranty and have a better peace of mind. If you typically would look at creating a deck 3 feet off the ground to catch a back patio door, a lot of time and effort is going to be spent creating that base. And then as the deck is built up with the wall stones, there's only a certain level of compaction that can be done in the middle of that deck without causing, distortion to the side walls that are being constructed. While any of our systems, we're a big advocate of using mechanical screw piles because they go in quickly, easily, can be, driven to the required torque and depth. And by doing that, contractors are offering, I guarantee this, short of an act of God, this product that I'm constructing is never going to move on you because, you're either latching onto the house, with a ledger board, and then you're using mechanical or concrete piles that are below the frost line, and installed correctly. And that structure is not going to move. A beauty of this system is, as a contractor that's going into any new subdivisions where, that whole area has just been backfilled and, the homeowner is so eager on getting a new deck or walkway or anything like that built. Typically a contractor is going to say, I'm not going to be able to do it because all this ground needs to settle. Using the Stone Deck Silca system, you can literally go in right after the house has been backfilled because you're not relying on the compaction and settling of the soil. You put in, the appropriate amount of mechanical screw piles, put your beam on them, ledger board onto the house, build your wood frame, and then you can give that customer or client the ability to supply, a stone deck right away. And it's actually a funny story, as we had a contractor in Montreal that went into a brand new subdivision, and he's used Silca system on a number of jobs. He went into a brand new subdivision where a customer wanted his front entrance porch extended, and the contractor went in, used the Silca system method, and he reached out to us later basically saying, after that, I basically spent my entire season pretty well on that street and block because everybody else that wanted the same were told by contractors that, they'd have to come back in a year or two once all the ground is settled. And I was able to supply this install technique right away.
Having this podcast and the information that you guys provide on your website, it all plays into allowing the contractor to offer a new suggestion to their customers, but also the education to be able to sell that project to the customer. And we've talked a lot about this system and how contractors can install it and the benefits of it, but how would you say a contractor going into their customer, how would you say would be the best way to sell a system like this to their customer?
It really depends on the relationship or the attitude of the customer, right? You'll have customers that basically want a deck or a pathway or a walkway installed. They don't want to get too involved in terms of the fine details. They just want a product that's going to last and, be able to choose, say, a stone or a color. And then you're going to have the other contractor that literally wants to pick apart every aspect of the project and knowing all the fine details. So we found is we'll have contractors that have embraced our product that basically know how this product works, understands the perfect applications for this product. And when they see those opportunities for this product, they basically will explain to the homeowner that, we have a technique and we have a product that we use to create exactly what you want. The benefits of this product are, the warranty of this product are, and they're able to work with it, right? And again, it comes down to that homeowner. If the homeowner, is one of these people that needs to really be involved, what we tell those contractors and the contractors on our contractor network is, refer them back to our website, let the homeowner, educate themselves about our product, understand how our product works. If they want to reach out to us and have specific questions about our products, we will gladly spend the time with the homeowner to ensure that our contractors have success in winning that job, right? And some of the benefits with the product are that other systems like traditional interlock don't offer is if you're dealing, so for example, if somebody wants to encase a hot tub, if before our systems came into place, you would pretty well would have to, create some kind of a structure or a bowl to prevent any of the aggregate from falling in or around that hot tub, allowing access to any type of mechanical. Our system, and there's examples if, again, go to our website, stonedeck.ca, go under Silca system gallery, you'll see where a large multi-tiered deck was built with a hot tub dropped right in the middle of it, full access for any of the mechanicals, and they were able to bring the stone right up tight to the hot tub. So the same is true for if you're dealing with any type of semi-in-ground or above-ground pool. You're able to offer the contractor storage, right? So if they're doing a deck that's a couple of feet off the ground, you want storage underneath your deck. You want dry storage underneath your deck. So instead of using geotextile, you use some type of a water barrier in place of the geotextile. Now you've created dry storage underneath. And then obviously the big factor for the customers is the warranty, right? I mean, what I can say, with respect to any of our products is, they've been available here in Canada going on almost 10 years now and sold in 8 provinces from British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia. And we've had 0 callbacks or warranty claims on any of our products, right? They're definitely designed and can weather the Canadian climate. So the other thing that, obviously we do to try to help, get our products known and to drive business to the contractors is we've created a contractor network. And what that is, contractors that are willing to work with our products and they've embraced working with our product. There's no cost or obligation to that. The only sort of obligation that we ask is that you understand a bit about our product. So if a homeowner calls you and says, I'm looking for a Silca deck, that contractor's I have no idea what you're talking about. So we basically will promote that contractor on our website, because every day we'll have emails right across from Canada. I'm interested in Silca system and I'm looking for a contractor in Calgary. I'm looking for a contractor in Montreal. So we are able to do is say we have a contractor network across Canada. Go bring in that contractor. The contractor works directly with them. And then, what we're able to do, again, is act as that filter for the contractor. So any of the real questions that the homeowner may have specific to our product, to understand our product, to be confident with our product, we're able to, work with the homeowner, provide them all that information, peace of mind, explanation, warranty coverage, and then, let the contractor focus on the specific build of the product.
Mm-hmm. And I love the support that you're providing contractors and homeowners to be able to widen the choices that they have available to them. Now, if a contractor listening to this wants to learn more about this system, where can they learn more about Stone Deck Innovations?
Well, again, everything is, on our website, stonedeck.ca. Basically, we'll show all the products that we have. And once you go to the various links of the province, it'll speak to within resources to engineering, how to work with the products. We have very detailed sort of presentations on how to build with the various products, to use the various products. On our page, stonedeck.ca, you'll have join our contractor network where they can fill out that information. And then what we do is we work with the contractor to provide them even more in-depth sort of knowledge, education on our products, being able to, support them with brochures, support them at trade shows, with building displays or anything that they may require. And then, being able to work with them and their clients to be able to provide them the best product. The other thing that we've started is we have a contractor feature page. So contractors that work with our products, they basically send us pictures of their products, and then we put them on our contractor feature page. So depending on the volume of contractors and how busy we are, it's something that, every week we're going to have a different contractor being featured, because for that homeowner looking for that contractor, obviously, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So it's just another way that we can help promote the contractors. So the more business we can drive to a contractor, the more product they're buying.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast episode. Visit us at howtohardscape.com for more information on this subject, and be sure to check out stonedecks.ca. Let us know what you want to learn about in future episodes by reaching out to us on our social channels and sending us an email to us at contact@howtohardscape.com. We'd love it if you subscribe to this podcast, left us a rating and review. This really helps us get some traction with this podcast and get more guests onto the show to deliver you more value. We look forward to meeting with you next week on the How to Hardscape podcast.